from a friend's house. The route took me through a dense forest, the kind that seemed to close in around you, making you feel isolated and vulnerable. The road was narrow and winding, and I had to concentrate to keep from drifting into the trees. Suddenly, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. A car was approaching fast, its lights flickering erratically. It was strange, but I figured it was just someone in a hurry. I moved to the side to let them pass, but the car stayed behind me, its lights growing brighter and more intense. A sense of unease settled over me. I sped up, hoping to put some distance between us, but the car matched my speed, staying right on my tail. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that whoever was behind me had no intention of passing. They were following me. I decided to take a sharp turn onto a side road, hoping to lose them in the twists and turns. The road was even darker and more desolate, but the car followed, its headlights never wavering. Panic set in as I pushed my car to its limits, but no matter how fast I went, the other car stayed right behind me. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a flash of a face, pale and emotionless, staring back at me from the driver's seat. A chill ran down my spine. This was no ordinary driver. I took another sharp turn, and for a moment, I lost sight of the car. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As I rounded another bend, the car appeared again, this time directly in front of me. Its headlights blinded me, and I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop. The car was just a few feet away, its engine silent. I waited, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The driver's door slowly opened, and a figure stepped out. It was a man, tall and thin, his features obscured by the darkness. He started walking towards me, and I knew I had to get out of there. I threw the car into reverse, spun around, and sped back the way I had come. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of my home. I locked all the doors and windows, my heart still racing. The next day I told my friends about the encounter, but no one believed me. They said it was just my imagination, that I had probably been followed by some prankster. But I know what I saw. That car and the man inside were something beyond this world. And now, every time I drive down that road, I can't help but look in my rearview mirror, half expecting to see those haunting headlights appear once again. The Haunted Lighthouse Jake and Emily were travel bloggers known for exploring haunted locations. Their latest adventure took them to a remote coastal town with a sinister legend about an old lighthouse. According to the locals, the lighthouse keeper, consumed by madness, had lured ships to their doom and vanished without a trace. Some said his ghost still haunted the lighthouse, leading the unwary to their deaths. Determined to capture proof, Jake and Emily decided to spend the night in the lighthouse. They arrived as the sun was setting, the lighthouse casting a long shadow over the rocky shore. As they set up their equipment, a storm began to brew, and the wind howled through the broken windows. Despite the growing sense of foreboding, they started their investigation. Emily went to the top of the lighthouse, while Jake explored the keeper's quarters. As Emily ascended the stairs, she heard whispers echoing in the narrow space, but every time she turned around, no one was there. Meanwhile, Jake found an old journal belonging to the lighthouse keeper. The final entry was chilling. "The sea calls to me, its voice louder each night. I must answer." Just then, the door slammed shut, and Jake felt a cold presence behind him. He turned, but the room was empty. The temperature dropped, and he could see his breath misting in the air. Emily reached the top of the lighthouse and looked out at the stormy sea. A flash of lightning revealed a ghostly figure standing on the rocks below, staring up at her. Terrified, she backed away and stumbled upon an old, rusted lantern. It flickered to life, casting an eerie glow. Suddenly, the lighthouse light turned on by itself, sweeping over the dark waters. Jake and Emily heard a distant ship's horn, followed by the sound of waves crashing violently. Emily rushed down to Jake, but the ghostly figure now stood blocking her path. It was the lighthouse keeper, his eyes hollow and filled with rage. They tried to escape, but the lighthouse seemed to twist and warp around them, leading them in circles. The storm outside intensified, and the walls groaned under the pressure. Desperate, they smashed a window and climbed out, braving the treacherous climb down the rocks. As they reached the shore, they looked back to see the lighthouse glowing ominously. The ghostly figure watched them, then slowly faded away. Jake and Emily never spoke of that night again, but they left the town with a deep respect for the legends that haunt old places. To this day, the lighthouse remains abandoned, and locals warn that those who dare to enter might never return, swallowed by the madness that lingers within its walls. I was returning from a late-night shift, exhausted and eager to get home. The highway was deserted, a long stretch of asphalt flanked by dense woods. The only light came from my headlights and the occasional flicker of a distant street lamp. As I drove, I saw a figure standing on the side of the road, thumbing for a ride. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, his face hidden in the shadows. Against my better judgment, I pulled over and rolled down the window. "Need a lift?" I called out. He nodded silently and got into the car. His presence was unsettling, and he brought with him a chill that seemed to seep into my bones. I tried to make small talk, but he remained silent, staring straight ahead. We drove in silence for miles, the only sound the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of the trees outside. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Where are you headed?" I asked. He turned to me, and for the first time I saw his face. His eyes were empty, devoid of any emotion or life. "Home," he replied, his voice hollow and distant. A shiver ran down my spine. I focused on the road, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread. After what felt like an eternity, he spoke again. "This is my stop," he said, pointing to an old, rundown house at the edge of the woods. I pulled over, and he got out without a word. As he walked towards the house, I noticed something strange. His footsteps made no sound on the gravel driveway. He reached the front door, and before he went inside, he turned to look at me one last time, his eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. I drove away as fast as I could, my heart pounding in my chest. When I got home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I did some research and discovered that the house had been abandoned for years. The last occupant was a man who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. From that night on, I avoided that stretch of road. But sometimes, late at night, I find myself thinking about the vanishing man and his eerie, empty eyes. And I wonder if he's still out there, waiting for another unsuspecting driver to give him a ride home.